Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Wilton Report. So we all know the saying, know the math, know the market. At least that's my saying. I know it. You should know it. But while everyone else is out there looking at the headlines, we're looking at the actual data. So I'm breaking down the numbers for Plainsboro, West Windsor, Hopewell, Lawrence, Montgomery, and Princeton today. And we're going to go into some granular detail so you can stop guessing and making more calculated moves. This is the Math of the Market live. So let's dive in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. And we have a lot to talk about. Like the market is pretty interesting in that it's a bit all over the place. Like I'd call it more normalized, except for the fact that the single family home market's so scintillating. So the first town we're going to take on is Plainsboro. So what we're going to do this month is we're going to look at what changed from February 25 to February 26. Next month, at the end of March, we'll do the month and we'll do the quarter. So it'll be a little bit of a longer broadcast. But right now, across the board, we are in an inventory crunch, meaning there is just not a lot of the market. It's a combination of a lot of things. The weather in the northeast part of the country has not helped. So when you look at Plainsboro, New Jersey, so Plainsboro, New Jersey is interesting in that, can't see my screen, I heard. All right, let me fix that. Apologies, let me share my entire screen. That will work. That should work. Victoria, if you could let me know that that works, that would be great. So anyway, talking about Plainsboro. So Plainsboro is Middlesex County. It is not Mercer County. It's at the southeast corner of Mercer County. And it's a tiny little market, right? It's not big. It's by density, by population, it's tiny. It's an interesting market in that it shares a high school system with West Windsor. So West Windsor North, West Windsor South are the two high schools. Plainsboro predominantly goes to West Windsor North. It's the top rated school district in the state of New Jersey. And as I posted last week, people move for schools, period, full stop, end of story. So in February of 2025, in Plainsboro, there was 19 new listings. February 26, only 14. So pretty significant drop. That's 25%. 12 went pending in 25, 10 went pending in 26. So again, when you take fewer to the market, fewer are going to sell. Interestingly, 5 units sold in February of 2025, 11 sold in February of 26. So that's a pretty big jump in terms of what sold. So that gives you sort of an idea of the ferocity of the market. And in Plainsboro, it's in specific segments. So the sold volume went from basically 3 million to 7.6 million. Days on market is spiking in Plainsboro. And no, it's not what you think. The market's not crashing. There's a very specific segment of the market that's slow. On the next slide, I will show you what that means. So the month supply is somewhat static, 7 to 9 months. But again, if you think that this is a buyer's market and you go into Plainsboro thinking, oh, you have flexibility and room to choose and negotiate, and you go into the wrong price segment or home style segment, you're going to get crushed. Right now, there's 37 homes on the market in Plainsboro. Last year, there was 27. So let's break this down. Let's find the sweet spots and the weak spots in the market. So the single family home market across the board, across every part of our market, is scintillatingly hot. Period, full stop, end of story. So right now, as of last night, because that's when we ran this data, there was one single family home in Plainsboro under $1 million. So again, if you're a seller in Plainsboro, you don't have any competition under $1 million. Now, nothing went pending in the last 30 days. That one house has been on the market in excess of 30 days, has not taken a price reduction. Overall, I would give the single family home market under $1 million in Plainsboro a seller score of 8. So starting this month, I'm going to do a seller score and sort of give you an indicator of where the market's at, 1 being bad, 10 being awesome. The single family home market, 1 to 1.5 million in Plainsboro. There's 5 active, right? Nothing went under contract in the last 30 days. 3 of the 5 have been on over 30 days. 1 of the 5 has been reduced. I'd still give the seller score in that segment of Plainsboro a 7. Some of these houses, they overshot the price. So it's not like the market's bad. It's just sellers got a little aggressive looking at what's coming in the market. The single family above 1.5 million in Plainsboro, there's just nothing on the market. If something were to come on, I'd give it the same score of a 7. So pretty close to a 10. The condo market in Plainsboro, and again, I just did a broadcast on Plainsboro last week. Very dynamic condo and townhouse market. There are 0 condos, non-55 plus condos for sale in Plainsboro. So 0. So if you're a seller and you put your house on the market, you're the only one on the market as of today. So buyers, that's bad. Sellers, that's good. There's 1 contingent. Again, I'd give the overall score there an 8. I probably should have said a 9 or a 10. I'll be honest, looking back. Interestingly, so overall, Plainsboro favors sellers. Right now, there's a little bit of a glut in the 1 to 1.5 range. I just think the sellers overshot pricing on that. The market will catch up to them. They can reduce their price. The 55 plus range in Plainsboro, that's a bit of a stagnant market. So let's talk about it. There's 22 active homes for sale in the 55 plus market. So this range is everything from a condo at Windrose to Riverwalk. There's 22 55 plus houses for sale in Plainsboro. So it accounts for half the market. So if you remember on this slide, there's 37 active, 22 of them are 55 plus. So if you're not 55 plus, you're excluded from living in this community. You can buy it, you just can't live in it. So I'm not sure why you do that. So there's 22 active, 0 went contingent in the last 30 days, right? Of the 22, 17 have been on the market over 30 days. 7 have taken a price reduction already. I'd give that a seller score of 3.5. That might even be generous, again, looking at that. So why do I focus on houses that have been on the market over 30 days? The way the consumer works is this. House comes on market on a Friday. By the following Sunday, all the ready, willing, and able buyers have literally poured through that house, whether it's an open house, private showings, whatever. So in 7 to 14 days, the ready, willing, and able buyers have come through the house. Maybe they have to come back for a second look, whatever. But after 30 days, any buyer who's ready to buy has been through it and has made the decision not to buy it. So what does that tell you? 20 years later and a few thousand transactions later, I can tell you you have a pricing problem, right? You may have a condition problem, you may have a location problem, but those equate to a pricing problem. So right now in the 55 plus market in Plainsboro, I'd say it's a pretty good time to be a buyer. I'd say it's a challenging time to be a seller. So that's why the seller score of 3.5. Overall though, Plainsboro on the traditional resale market, non-55 plus favors sellers. So West Windsor, I think West Windsor is one of the most dynamic markets in the state, if not the county. There's just a lot going on there, a lot of development, a lot of townhouse development. The train station is being redeveloped. They're putting a hotel in by the train station. #1 school district in the state, right? It's a direct commuter town to Midtown and Wall Street. Amazing market, right? So what's happening in West Windsor? Last February, 19 homes. The whole market was listed this February 24. So a little bit of a bump in listings. Listed volume went from 14 to 23 million. So that's good. More volume in the market. It's always good. The listed median went from 649 to 1 million, right? So some more single families came on the market. 9 pended both months. 12 sold last February. 8 sold this February. The sold volume was somewhat static, 9 million to 7 million. Days on market, last year was 28. This year's 39. So it's creeping up. So, oh, wow. Market's changing. It's a good time to be a buyer in West Windsor. Not necessarily. We're going to get into that in the next slide. And by the way, if you guys have any questions, you can just pop them in the chat. I will answer them as we go. So month supply went from 3.4 to 5.1. So that would indicate that the market as a whole is favoring buyers. It just depends on the segment of the market. Inventory went from 47 to 45. So let's break down the market and let's find the sweet spots and let's find the hot spots of the market, because this is where buyers get messed up, right? So the single family home market in West Windsor, under $1 million. This is not 55 plus living. This is non-55 plus single family homes under $1 million in West Windsor. There's only 3 active. And I'm laughing because it's just not a lot. Like, that's very little choice for a consumer. 3 went contingent in the last 30 days. That's an absorption rate of 1. That's an extreme seller's market. Of the 3, 2 have been on the market in excess of 30 days, kind of busier roads. 1 took a reduction. Overall, I'm going to give the single family home market in West Windsor under $1 million a seller score of 10. Buyers, you're on the inverse of that. Let's just say it's challenging to be a buyer. Let's say you're a 3. The single family 1 to 1.5 million range in West Windsor, there's 3 active, 3 contingent, nothing on the market over 30 days. As a matter of fact, we were working on pricing for one of these single families last night. I think it's going to go at a bidding war. Nothing's been reduced, a seller score of 10. If I could say a seller score of 11 there, I would. That is the sweet spot in the market in West Windsor, that 1 to 1.5 range, for sure. Favor sellers all day long. Can't overprice it. Can't put a dump on, expect to get top dollar, because you won't. However, if you do your work as a seller and put it on strategically, you're going to crush it. Single family in West Windsor, there's nothing on the market above 1.5. Overall, I'd give a seller score there of 9, just because West Windsor is so desirable. #1 school district, commuter train to New York, access to jobs. I did a podcast with a commercial broker, Vinny, last week, and we were talking about the return to work, calls going out. So, it was 0, and then it was 2 days. Now it's 4 to 5 days. So having that train matters again, or having access to that train and jobs matters. New York to Philadelphia. So let's talk about the townhouse market in West Windsor. There's 24 active. There are 4 contingent in the last 30 days, right? Of the 24, 21 have been on the market for 30 days or more. 8 of the 24 have already taken a price reduction. I'm going to give that a seller score of 4. I still would rather be a seller in West Windsor than a buyer. Though buyers, this is the sweet spot in the market. So if you're watching this podcast and you're like, wow, how do I buy in West Windsor? Go explore the townhouse market. There's new construction. There's opportunity to grow in that market. So that's a great sweet spot in the market. So an overall seller score of 4, maybe 5, 6, depending on your price point. The more expensive ones are sitting longer than the cheaper ones in West Windsor in that segment of the market. The condo market in West Windsor, there's only 4 active, 2 contingent. 2 of the 4 have been on the market over 30 days. 1 has already been reduced. Overall seller score of 8. I think part of it too is there's a lot of investment properties in West Windsor that come to the market. And I find that landlords don't like to prep their properties. Again, if you don't prep your properties, it's going to cost you 10% at the closing table, 10% of the gross price at the closing table. So stage and prep your properties. You can look on the podcast for episodes about that. The 55 plus market in West Windsor, there's 10 active, 6 contingent in the last 30 days. 8 of the 10, though, have been on the market 30 days or more. 6 of the 10 have had a price reduction. So although there's a fair number of contingent, right, sellers are having to look at this market and go, you know what, maybe we're not appreciating the single family home market, because you're not. 6 of the 10 reduced from where they started on the market. So I'm going to give that a seller score of 5. In some of the 55 plus communities, it's a little better. Some it's a little more challenging, but overall, again, good to be a seller in West Windsor. But you can say the seller score in West Windsor for the 55 plus market is 4 to 7. I know that's a broad range, but it kind of depends on the community. Montgomery Township, which again is Somerset County, right, which is one town north of where I'm sitting here on Nassau Street. Man, oh man, oh man, good to be a seller in Montgomery, tough to be a buyer in Montgomery. Only 8 new listings in February of 25, February 26, 7. That's so crazy bad for buyers. It's good for sellers, bad for buyers. The listed volume went from 6.8 to 8.5. The listed median went from 822 to 1.2. Kind of nuts. Pendings went down 28% from 7 to 5. Sold units went down 20%, 5 to 4. The sold volume was somewhat flat. Days on market dropped, obviously. Month supply is somewhat flat, 2.9 to 3.4. And the inventory standing right now is only 17 homes for sale in Montgomery, 20 last year in February of 2025. So let's break down the market. The single family home market in West Windsor, active single family homes in West Windsor as of this morning, 0. Contingent in the last 30 days, 5. On the market over 30 days, 0. So seller score there, sorry, that should say seller score, not reduced. Seller score would be a 10. Single family 1 to 1.5, 3 active, nothing contingent in the last 30 days. The 3 have been on the market over 30 days. I know one of them I'm tracking. It's overpriced. It doesn't excuse you as a seller from not knowing the market and just slapping, any price you want in the market. You have to understand the 9 things that determine value. If you don't know what they are, hire me as your agent, I can tell you. But again, overall seller score in that market, an 8. Single family 1.5 plus. There's 1 active, 0 pending. It's been on the market over 30 days. Again, overall, it's a seller's market. I'm going to assign a score of 7 to that. The townhouse market in Montgomery is pretty dynamic. So there's new construction townhouses in Montgomery, right? There is the Blue Spring corridor, which is Montgomery Woods, all that whole corridor there, which tends to be the most affordable townhouse segment in the community, in the Montgomery community. 6 active, 6 contingent. Only 1 of the 6 has been on the market over 30 days. I'm going to assign that a seller score of 8 overall. Again, make sure your house is clean, make sure it's staged, make sure it's updated. If you have the bathroom lights from 1984 when you bought it, change the bathroom lights. Like, I have a handyman, text me and I'll give you my handyman information. There's no condos for sale, and there's only 155 plus for sale at the moment. So again, I'm going to assign a seller score of 8 to the 55 plus segment in Montgomery. So Montgomery, basically the whole market's an 8 to 10 for sellers. Buyers, you're the inverse. Sorry, it is what it is. Maybe that'll change. Hopewell, again, if there's an emblematic picture of the lack of inventory, look at Hopewell. In February of 2025, the market brought 36 units there was 36 units brought to the market in February of 2025. Better way of saying that. In February of 2026, there was only 23. That's a 36% drop in new inventory in 1 month. That's rough as we're going into the spring where we would normally see an increase. So last year there was a listed volume of 28 million. This year it's down to 13 million. That's a 51% drop in listing volume. The listed median price actually dropped from 685 to 599. That's just because of the fact not a lot came on. 17 pended versus last year versus this year. So again, 36 came on last year and 17 pended. 23 came on this year and 17 went contingent. So units sold 14 to 18, sold volume 10 to 14 million. Days on market somewhat flat, 31 to 37, and inventory standing at 50. However, a lot of that inventory in Hopewell Township is new construction. So when you look at the inventory, if there wasn't new construction in Hopewell, it'd be awful, like for a buyer in Hopewell. At least they have choice with the new construction, right? You say, maybe I don't want to be in a planned subdivision, fine, but there's not much else to buy. Literally, there's not much else to buy. So single family in Hopewell, under $1 million. There's 12 active. So you can see as you get further west away from New York and Princeton and the train, because they don't have a train station in Hopewell, there's more choice. So there's under $1 million. There's 12 active single family homes, 10 contingent in the last 30 days. Of the 12, 10 have been on the market over 30 days, 0 reduced. So mark my words, like write this down. In the single family home market, the 12 that are on the market, they're going to start to reduce. So if you're a buyer and you're like, I really want to be in that market, make an offer before it reduces. If you don't know where the math is going, fire agent, hire us. This is literally what we do. So 0 reduced. I'm telling you, as sure as we're sitting here today, a bunch of them will reduce in the next 30 days. Regardless of that, a seller score of 7, there's just not a lot to choose from. Like, there's just not. A lot of busy roads, septic, all that other stuff. So it makes it a little bit more challenging. The single family home market 1 to 1.5, again, it's sort of like West Windsor. It's that really incredible sweet spot. Only 5 active, 2 contingent. 3 of the 5 are on the market over 30 days. So again, the buyers have come through. So you see 2 have reduced. Like, you can see that correlation. Once you hit that 30-day mark, the seller sort of has a decision to make. They can sit and hope the market's appreciating fast enough to catch them at their price, or they can reduce their price to try to catch where the market is and be brought back up. But overall, even though there's 2 reductions, I'm going to assign that an 8 from a seller score perspective. Again, you can't overprice it. You got to do your job, but pretty good to be a seller in Hopewell 1015. 1.5 and more in Hopewell. There's 4 active, 0 contingent in the last 30 days. All 4 have been on the market over 30 days. None of them have reduced from their original price. I'm going to assign that a seller score of 6, just because the market's so good. However, of that 4, again, write this down. We'll track how many reduce in the next, between now and next month's broadcast. The townhouse market in Hopewell, very dynamic. Why? There was already Brandon Farms and all these other townhouse communities in Hopewell. They're building more, right? So there's been a lot of development in the townhouse segment in Hopewell. There's 12 active, 4 contingent. 7 of the 12 have been on the market over 30 days. 4 of them have reduced. So why is that? Because the available buying population came through and made the decision not to buy those units. So the seller reduced it. Overall seller score of 5 could actually be a little bit higher. But again, when you're competing with new construction, it tends to keep the prices flat until that new construction sells out. And then you'll maybe see appreciation in the market. The condo market in Hopewell, there's only 3, 2 contingent in the last 30 days. That's about a 1.5 month absorption rate. Seller's market, only 1 of the 3 has been on the market over 30 days. That's a seller score, in my opinion, of 8 overall. It's a very strong market. There wasn't any 55 plus available as of last night when we were doing the data, so we'll keep an eye on that. Lawrenceville. Again, Lawrenceville is a huge municipality. It should have more inventory than we're looking at right now. So last year, new listings, 22. This year, only 24. That's not a lot. The listed median was 439 to 469, relatively flat. Pended last year, there was 13 pendings. This year, 10. Units sold, 13. This year, 10. Sold volume, relatively flat, 7 to 6.9 or 6.4. Days on market went up a smidge, and inventory went from 40 to 50. So let's break down the market. So again, the single family home market, and I changed the score price brackets in Lawrenceville because Lawrenceville tends to be less expensive than Princeton, West Windsor, Hopewell, for various reasons, right? So the single family home market in Lawrenceville under $650,000. There's only 3 active. There's 9 contingent. So there's more contingent than there is active. That's an extreme seller's market, right? Now, there's a data error there, so I have to get with my data guy, Leo. But of the 3, 1 has been on the market over 30 days, and it's already taken a reduction. It's not 3. Single family homes between 650 and 999, there was only 1. There's 7 contingent. And then single family homes between 1 and 2, there's 2 contingent. The 2 that are active have been reduced. So it is what it is. In the townhouse market, 5 active, 6 contingent. 2 of the 5 have been on the market over 30 days, and 3 have been reduced. Overall, I think the single family home market in West Windsor below $1 million or 650 and below, I'd give a seller score of 9. Single family 650 to 999, I'd give it an 8. Anything above $1 million in Hopewell traditionally has been more challenging to sell. I'd say that's a 7 overall, but right now it still favors sellers. Townhouses, I'd give it an 8, and the 55 plus, I'd give it a 7. So Princeton, man. So in Princeton, there were 27 listings that came in the market in February 2025. In February 26, 13. The solds were flat. Sold volume was down a little bit. Average sold price was down a little bit. Days on market went from 73 to 21. So if that's not an indicator of how fast the market's moving, and the list to sell price ratio went from 98% to 101%. That's just 12 months, 1 month apart. So right now in Princeton, right, there are 0 single family homes available for sale under $1 million. Zero. There's one contingent, and I'm not sure, that might have been the one that like didn't have sheetrock on the walls and it still got bought. None have been on the market over 30 days. Obviously, none reduced. Seller score overall of 10. Now, however, the last few that sold, they did sit on the market for a minute before they sold, because if whatever the market indicators are, and there's 9 of them, right? In Princeton, there's definitively 9. Other towns, 8. When you add schools in, it goes back to 9 or 10. It doesn't mean you can just slap a price on it and expect the market to bring you that number, because that's what you feel your house is worth. There's actually data sets that go into the pricing. And in Princeton, there's 9 of them, 10 including the elementary schools. Single family, $999 to $1.99. There's 5 active, 13 went contingent in the last 30 days. 3 of the 5 have been on the market over 30 days. None of them have taken a price reduction. So again, we can bookmark those 5 and see what happens in the next 30 days. Despite the fact that 3 of the 5 have been on the market over 30 days, I'm still assigning a seller score there of 10 in the single family, 1 to 2 million range. The single family 2 to 3 million range, however, there's 7 active, only 1 contingent. So that's a 7-month absorption rate, kind of leaning towards buyers a little bit. Now, does that mean that things are not selling immediately? No. The good houses that are priced right, in good condition, are 6 of the 7 have been on the market over 30 days. 2 have been reduced. Despite that, what you're looking almost like a glitch, I'm assigning a seller score of 8 to the 2 to 3 million price point in Princeton, just because the overall market's so in high demand. I'm also going to break down some data for you on that. Again, if you have questions, by the way, please put them in the chat. Happy to answer them as we go. The single family home market in Princeton, 3 million and above, right? There's 6 active, 2 contingent in the last 30 days. Of the 6, 100% of them have been on the market for 30 days. 3 have been reduced. I'm still assigning a seller score of 10 to that, because if new construction comes on, it's going to sell, right? If it's a great house above $3 million, it's going to sell. Like one of the houses above 3 million, it's not even built yet. So, and in the 2 million, there's a bunch that are new construction. They're not even built yet. So when you start digging into the numbers, like you see where you have to really have local knowledge. Local knowledge is everything in the real estate business. The townhouse market right now is 0 to 999, 0 active, 2 contingent. None were on the market over 30 days. None were reduced. So again, without being a PhD in math, you can say, okay, well, that's a pretty brisk market. I'm going to assign a seller score there of 8. The townhouse market of 1 to 2 million, there's 1 active, 3 contingent, 0 on the market over 30 days. It did take a reduction. That I'm still going to assign an overall seller score there of about 7. A little harder to sell a $1 million+ townhouse, regardless of the fact that it's Princeton. In the 2 million+ townhouse market in Princeton, there's 3 active, 0 contingent. Pretty much all 3, I think, have been on the market over 30 days. None have taken a reduction in the last 30 days. But again, I'll assign a seller score of that to 5. Now, that being said, right, we sold 2 duplexes right off Nassau Street, never went on the market last year, just shy of $2 million each. Why? Because you can throw a rock at Nassau Street. They're brand new construction. So again, if the right product comes on, the seller score is not going to be reflective of these numbers. Like these people overshot the market. In the condo market, which is a different market, that's the sort of the single flat market, 3 active, 1 contingent, 2 of the 3 were reduced. So again, I'd say overall seller score of condos in Princeton, I'd say it's like a 7. It just, people tend to think condos appreciate at the same pace single family homes do. They don't. Single family homes, I can tell you, definitively appreciate the fastest. Probably then townhouses under $1 million, then probably duplexes in town, and then lastly condos. Why? Because you can fit more people in a single family, a townhouse, or a duplex. That's why. So here's a view of, I showed this to you last month. Again, the gray bar is single family homes in Princeton. I want people to focus on this because I want them to realize what's happening in the market. So in 2000, 203 single family homes sold below 2 million in Princeton. Last year, 33. Right now in the market, below 1 million single family, 0. So if you're a home buyer, right, that 1 to 1.5 segment in Princeton, single family, is the hottest market known to man, period. Full stop. You don't get to be choosy as a buyer. You get to bid and bid up because that's where it's going to go. So again, the single family home market is now firmly above 1 million. And interestingly, right, and I know the data looks a little bit crazy. You'll have to excuse me. We're working on it. The single family home market in Princeton is growing the fastest in terms of growth, units closed above 2 million. So as I tell you, what used to be 1.5 is now over 2 million. What used to be 800 is now 1.4, right? So as a buyer, you don't get to be picky here. You get to buy and you get to live in the house and sort of deal with it. I hate to be that binary, but the market's not waiting for you to get what you want because somebody else is going to take it. They're going to do the addition. They're going to do whatever has to be done to make it livable by today's standards. And again, when you look at a 3 million plus market from 2000 to 2025, last year, 10 sold above, I should take that back. In 2024, 10 sold above 3 million. In 2025, 18 sold above 3 million. So it just goes to show you like the market is moving, right? But it's not moving at a pace that's favorable for buyers by price point. So that is the breakdown of the market for February of 2026. I'm just going to look at questions. So, okay, no questions. So hopefully you found this informative. Like I said, next month for March, we're going to do it for the quarter and the month. So you'll get a little bit more of a data, and we're going to do this every month. If I didn't include your town this month, just let me know. I'm happy to do that. If you haven't hit subscribe to the broadcast, please do so. And if you know somebody looking that could benefit from this data, send it to them, and then they can reach out to us. So that's it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time here on the Wilton Report. I'm Josh Wilton.